Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here on the Sticks and Bones podcast. Hi, Dr. K. How are you doing this lovely Sunday when we're recording?
It's good. I think it's really kind of fitting when we are recording because for those out there, I know when it drops, it's July, but right now we're falling on Father's Day, and
We are.
it's kind of a fitting topic with King Zeus himself, the Papa in Greek mythology. So, happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to our king, and it's also raining outside. So, like, this is, if you've ever like thought of a sign, like this is one of where we are diving into today's episode to restore our King of the Gods' good name as he gets slandered online for reasons don't understand. And we're going to be talking about the crazy Titan War and how Zeus overthrew his father. And what does that look like? What do we think about it? We're dissecting it, talking about it, prophecy, fate, the gods, war,
hmm
all of it today.
War is hell. No, it's really exciting, and I hope y'all came ready with your assigned reading done on, understanding the original battle that took place over 10 years because yeah, we are not popcorn reading today. We are diving into deeper discussions because why? Because hot girls read Greek mythology. So the girls are back and ready to dive deeper into better questions. We should have just hit record earlier when we were on the phone talking.
I know. And for those of you that are like, where can I find the story? This is a coming from Hesiod's Theogony. So you can find that in a primary source that we recommend for reading Greek mythology and understanding the myth. So yeah, like Dr. K just said, we're not gonna like read you the myth and be like, and this is what,
Once upon a time,
I mean,
Zeus
how
blah
boring.
blah.
No, we're going to be talking about the hard-hitting questions of like what do we think? What are we interpreting from this myth? How is Zeus so powerful? Where are we seeing this? How are the other gods, his brothers and sisters? Where do they come in? How does Gaia come in? What's going on? We have some questions. Is he cursed? Is this fate? How does he maintain and control power just like his father Kronos? So we're really here to talk about the strength of Zeus and everything that we know about him in this war, this great 10-year war of the Titans. It's pretty crazy. This is probably one of my favorite stories in Greek mythology, and I think it's one of the OG ones, if you will, because it's just so iconic. And really, how everything starts is by Zeus overthrowing Kronos, and then everything kind of happens after that. So, very exciting. But before we dive in today, what do we have going on Patreon this month? Because we have like the best lineup. I think this is one of my favorite months.
Yes, because we are in the month of July. Well, we already have out for you guys when this comes out. The Domestic Shrine versus Witchcraft Altars is already out on Patreon. And then what is also dropping this month is an epithet of our boy Zeus, really diving into what an epithet means. Which one are we looking at exactly, and how would the ancient peoples have used it? Because, yes, words and epithets do matter in the ancient world. And then to wrap it all up, because we've heard the cries, the pleas, and everything for sources on ancient Greek religion, and we've already gone over a few, but now we're going to give one more. We're going to add one more to the lineup, so you can expect that at the end of the month as well. So super exciting, great lineup, very Zeus, ancient Greek religion heavy, but I think it's really necessary. But I'm super excited for like July, August, September, like literally through the end of the year. It's just like one after another of just fun topics.
We have some amazing things, and that epithet of Zeus on Patreon is going to be one for justice. So it's one that I've used personally for the great king of the gods, for those of us that practice ancient Greek religion. And yeah, it's going like him being associated with justice is going to make a lot of sense as we're talking about Zeus overthrowing Kronos today, because obviously we know him as being king of the gods, and that comes with great responsibility, but also understand that he just didn't wake up one day and earn that title. He had to go and fight a 10-year war and overthrow his father. And Zeus to me kind of was just like born into this. He
Yeah.
really didn't wake up and say, "Oh, today's the day I'm going to overthrow my father." Based on what we see in the myth, he has a responsibility
Yeah.
to save his siblings that got swallowed by Kronos. So,
No, 100%. And I think I think so many times in Greek mythology and, studying ancient Greek religion, epithets kind of get tossed to the side because people will think titularies are just the only thing that like Zeus is only
I
king of the
didn't laugh
gods.
this time.
That Zeus is only like the king of the gods, but he's justice, he's fertility, he's so many different things. So we gotta put some credit back on our boy, our sky daddy Zeus.
I think that a lot of people miss the mark when they're talking about the gods. They talk about them in just a very vague sense when our gods are so multifaceted. Like we've been saying this a lot with Hekate, but Hekate is so multifaceted and so is Zeus. Like they don't just have one thing that they do. And like what you just said with Zeus, which I love about him is that he is associated with fertility because men need a god associated with fertility, right? They need to have children, especially in the ancient world to carry on their titles and their legacy. That's so important. I don't know if any of you have ever read anything from like the ancient world, but anytime they're like talking about someone, they're talking about, oh, this is the son of, the father of, like the way that they're naming. We saw that a lot when we were reading Theseus. It was
Hmm.
like I could not track who was who because it was like, and this is so and so, the son of blah blah blah, and you're like, okay, great, but like it was important in the ancient world.
Yeah, it's not just in like the biblical sense because we see that a lot in biblical texts, but it is everywhere because we don't really have a lot of like we do have last names and everything, but everything was really by like family lineage, especially as we, move through Greece and into the Roman period and onward. So like you got to know who's who, and especially when you're reading Hesiod, like you have to know the weird verbiage
Yes.
of like very nuanced verbiage of how he's defining certain things because I think that in of itself is a very lost art of understanding who's who because of this one little hint, because of this one adjective.
Well, I'm going to read something right now before we talk about Zeus because I'm going to read this just to show how important it is that you know epithets or you understand how the gods are being referenced in different stories and mythology and different sources because we as the reader are supposed to come and have this knowledge already. So I'm going to read you this. So this is Rhea, about Rhea and her children. And Rhea, being forced by Kronos, bore most brilliant offspring to him. Hestia, Demeter, golden slippered Hera, strong Hades, who has his home beneath the earth, to God, the God whose heart is pitiless, and him who crashes loudly and who shakes the earth. We have they're giving the names of the children, and then there's one of them where it just is, and him who crashes loudly and who shakes the earth. Now, I know who that's in reference to, but if you don't know who that's in reference to, you're not going to understand because they refer to him as this, as the
Yeah.
earth shaker throughout theogony.
Yeah. Like you could do process of elimination with the next line being and thoughtful Zeus, but you have to know not only epithets but family lineage. You have to know who's
Yeah.
related to who and how so. But yeah, if you were like, all right, Jeopardy question, who is the one who crashes loudly and who shakes the earth?
Oh, me, pick me.
Who is it? Answer.
Poseidon. It's Poseidon. But also, too, understand that they are defining how the gods are. Think about Hades, strong Hades, who has his home beneath the earth, the god whose heart is pitiless. That is how Hades is defined in
You
this book. That's why, like, I love when people are like, oh, Hades this, Hades that. This is how, in the primary source, Hades is being defined.
This man don't give a fuck. Pitiless
Pitiless.
has no mercy, no pity.
The only one that ever had mercy and pity was Persephone, and we saw that in Orpheus and Eurydice. So these things are really important when we're studying and looking at the gods and their worship because this is a primary source that I'm reading from.
Yeah.
I did not make this up. Dr. K did not make this up. This is how the gods are being portrayed. And so these are the things we have to respect and understand that this is how the ancients also viewed them. So we understand Hades lies beneath the earth. He's also has no heart, pitiless,
I don't blame
right?
him.
Oh yeah, 100%. So anyway, the whole point of today's episode is to restore Zeus's good reputation and good name because once again, I think a lot of this comes from people not understanding mythology and how the ancients are viewing them and their very important roles and titles and the things that they did. I
Hmm.
feel like has kind of got taken and twisted because, yeah, sure, we love Greek mythology and we're two girls that love Greek mythology. We can poke fun at it. This is fun, but also understand that it serves purpose.
Yes.
Words mean things, and the way that they're describing the gods is the way that the ancients worship and view them
Yeah.
is
It
very specific.
it holds a much larger purpose, which, we've all been through 10th grade English where you have to like annotate and everything. But as an adult now, like in my 30s, I do love diving into like each line and understanding and breaking everything down because you can glean so much. And yeah, isn't that what we want is to continue to critically think rather than just make stuff up?
100%. So here at Six of Moans, we're always going to give you the fact and the truth because we're not making this up. This comes from an actual source, and we're always going to give you the source. So if you're interested in learning about the overthrowing of Kronos, we really recommend Hesiod's Theogony. I think anyone that is a lover of Greek mythology or worshiping the gods should have this book. This is
Hmm.
incredible. We have the Penguin Classics version, so I always recommend Penguin Classics. We have a lot of that. But
They do
anyway,
a good
let's
job.
dive into it. So where I want to start with this because we're not going to be reading the myth is when I was like going back through this, one thing that I found very interesting was that Zeus was kind of thrown into this situation. He was born, he was saved, right? Where Kronos swallowed the rock instead of Zeus because Rhea tricked him and she really, which we can do a whole podcast episode on, she really started this whole thing by being like, my husband has caused me so much grief. He swallowed my children. He's the worst. And the gods are like rallying around her to help her because they
Hmm.
hate Kronos so much. So Zeus winds up being hidden and he like kind of has to grow up knowing that one day he's going to have to face his father.
Yeah, it's kind of like the setting of every kind of movie that we have, out there of, somebody who's born into, a tumultuous time period in their life and they are, in a sense, like the chosen one or something. So you're growing up with all of that weight on your shoulders, no doubt, growing up, understanding like you are on borrowed time until you really kind of clash with your father. You are the one who's supposed to come out, but it's also your father who also usurped his own father. So the pressure is monumental.
I mean,
And
the weight of the world is on his shoulders. He has to save his siblings. Like all of them were swallowed except Zeus because Rhea was able to trick him. And so he has no choice, but he has to go out there and I mean, he even swallowed Poseidon. I think about that because the Earthshaker himself, like they did not get away from him. And so, yeah,
no,
he kind of is born into this already like this prophecy that's already happening because what we know about Kronos is that he overthrew his father, right?
yeah,
And so now Zeus is born, and now Zeus's like destiny or fate is to overthrow his own father. So
yes.
he's like born into this prophecy and like having to do this and it's like I wonder if like he had like this blind confidence knowing that the prophecy was like the son is going to overthrow the father knowing that like ultimately he was going to win at the end.
You would hope, right? But if it's a prophecy, and as we know with prophecies, they are
Right.
famously not specific. So
No.
historically vague.
Right.
So it almost is kind of like, well, was it just about Kronos and Uranus? Is it just about Zeus and Kronos? Like, who is it about? Because you can kind of, fit the puzzle pieces into that prophecy. Any father and son, whether it's Joe Schmo down the road or Kronos and Zeus. So it's kind of like, who was this about? Or is this just like an innate fear of, psychological of like the son inherently, since this was written by men and it's meant to talk about humanity, that the son will usurp the father.
Hmm. Well, then we also see that with Zeus and Metis, famously, she gets pregnant and then Zeus eats Metis and because he's afraid that the child is going to overthrow him because it's happened, you know what I mean? It's
Writing's on the wall.
the writing's on the wall. It's happened twice already, so it's like I know like he gets a lot of crap for that, but also understand that he is a king trying to protect his power and everything that he fought for, and he's not going to be, you know, he's not going to let his guard down when it comes to these things. So I also find too, he's very similar to Kronos. And before we get into like the war or whatever, if you study Zeus, he overthrows Kronos just like Kronos did with his father, and then he marries his sister just like Kronos did to consolidate power. And that's something that stood out to me today when I was studying this. I'm like, oh my God, he literally did the same exact thing.
It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy in that manner, which like I understand. We're talking about like the beginning of the beginning for the Greek gods.
Hmm.
So there's not many people to consort with. I understand that.
Well, also God. So like it's not the same as human
I
beings, you know?
was trying to explain that to Kevin because he was like, "Well, what about the genetics?" And I was like, "The Greek gods, they don't
They're
have
not
genetics."
genetics, they're gods. They're just pure power and energy and are like, this is what I do.
He was trying to talk about that with Hades and Persephone, and he thought it was like a friend. Like he didn't realize how closely related it was.
Oh, uncle and niece.
Correct. So where was I going with this? But with that being said, we see that originally with Gaia, who creates Uranus, and then mother and son, and then she has children, and then it's like it's just siblings and intermarriage and having offspring with one another, which is fine because these are mythical beings and are not real, like in the sense of like genetics. But that is how you consolidate power. At its core, if you keep it in the family, that is how you maintain and hold onto power because as we've seen with the other two generations, it can literally go in an instant.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as I was reading through this, I'm like, wow, he learned so much from Kronos. Like he studied his opponent where he was like,
You had to.
okay, 100% art of war. Like he's studying his opponent. He spent all that time just like making sure he could overthrow him. But then when he got into power, he did some of the things that Kronos did because Kronos was good at maintaining power, except he got tricked. He got tricked by his own wife because he was swallowing their children. So that was like his downfall, if you will.
100%. And if we are setting up the timeline of, was Matus pre-Hera in terms of their marriage, maybe he kind of saw that as the same thing of like Kronos and Rhea in that instance of if Matus has a child, this cycle's going to start again.
Right. I always like to think it was before Hera,
I like to think that too.
but
Is
like
there any
we
source to
don't
prove this? No.
know. It just in my head, like that's how I see it because then it's like,
To me, they get married after the war and after the domains have been kind of like figured out.
right. Because then like why wouldn't he swallow his own kids with Hera? Like he's gone on to have other sons, you know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So, yeah, it's like he stopped swallowing his kids.
Great. And in that generational trauma,
It was that one time with Matus and then it just never happened again. Like
he said, well, that's fine.
the rest, however many, we did a whole like episode Zeus Daddy or Zaddy on talking about all his kids and like however many other kids he had. I guess they're okay.
They're fine. But the
So
Matus one really, really scared him.
yeah, so obviously Zeus is born, then he goes and he overthrows Kronos and he lets his brothers and sisters out. So they get thrown up. And then they fight the great Titan War.
Yes.
And I think one of the most interesting things to me about Zeus is they all kind of really bent the knee to him in a sense where it's like, yes, his two brothers had domain over very big realms and areas, but they really never challenged him as king of the gods.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because Zeus is the baby of the family.
Hmm.
And I wonder if it comes from this kind of almost kind of like sibling understanding of like, okay, well, we each have our own realms, but because Zeus is, king of the gods and everything, I don't want to lose my position, or the fact of like, our brother did save us from dad.
They didn't even challenge him though. Like
Hmm.
there wasn't even like a challenge of like Poseidon could have simply said, "Well, no, I want to be king of the gods," or Hades, right? I don't know if any of the goddesses would have personally challenged him because it's
It,
not really how it's seen, but they just kind of accepted him as king of the gods, and I wonder if it's because he did lead this great war and was able to get the Titans on his side in order to fight against the others.
I think so. I think, if he's already shown to be a good leader, if you are also getting your own kind of cut of the pie, I think that's fine. You're also getting your own spoils of war. And I mean, after all of those years that they spent in their father, I don't know if they would want that kind of role. I mean, if
Yeah.
I know that this is written, almost 3,000 years ago, but, putting the 2025 spin on it of like putting the human spin on it as well of like, would that have given them, PTSD? Like, did they, all these kids coming out and fighting this war, you're gonna not be okay after.
Right, 100%. And it's like, who you have to really want to be a king. You know, you have to have that drive, that power, that passion, as we've seen in history over and over again. Like, you really, there's something in you that's like, no, no, this is for me. And I think most often than not, most people don't volunteer to do these things because so much comes with it. You have a huge target on your back. Like, you're constantly, and I'm sure with in his case, making sure this prophecy of your son overthrowing you is not happening and
Yeah.
making sure people aren't always out to get you and overthrowing you and your power because everyone's looking to you. If war is coming, like you are in charge.
Yeah, 100%. And they see how easy the power and everything shifts with humans, especially famously in the Trojan War. And I think it's a good reminder of how the gods were interceding in the game that they were playing. It's just a reflection of their own power as well.
It is. And I think it's what makes me admire Zeus the most is that he's so good at being king of the gods. And we see this, famously when he's punishing certain titans after the war, like Prometheus and Atlas and these certain aspects because they didn't fight with him or they went against him or they did something he said not to do. And he's making examples out of people and he's really like laying down the law of like, you will not disobey me. I am king of the gods. And I feel like with Zeus, he's very, very good at being king of the gods, even in just Greek mythology, period. Sure, he has his trysts and his affairs, but removing that aside, because he's a king, he can do these things.
Yeah.
He's very good at keeping and maintaining power.
I mean, 100%. The fact that he has to, create eternal punishments and then, wipe humanity out, give humanity back, give them fire, like do this, do that. And you're kind of just stuck there with the spotlight on you. And what are you doing? You were the son of Kronos. And now what are you doing? And I think that comes with its own almost curse in of itself is being the son of Kronos who usurped his father and is just waiting to see if it happens again.
Yeah, well, this goes into like my next kind of thought around this. Do we think it was like a curse or something like this? It's kind of like this generational curse of like son usurping father and overthrowing him. And it's been some time since we had new lore drop about the Greek gods, let's be honest, we have no more. So like I guess we'll never
Right.
know. But it's like, do you think that it's some sort of weird curse that's going on? Maybe I wouldn't say curse, but almost like this like generational thing that's following him because of his father and then his father's father. You don't think it's not going to happen to him?
I don't know if it would happen to him.
I know.
I don't, and it's not to say that his offspring and everything aren't powerful in their own right, because I mean, look who we fathered. But I don't know if I don't want to say power hungry, but I don't know if Zeus has done the crimes that his father and grandfather had done.
Right. No, 100%.
Because when there's not many gods, or not many people, I should say, and somebody's doing crimes, those are going to stand out blatantly, right? And you're going to say, no, can't do that. But then the more populated things get, there's going to be a little bit more law and order. So I do wonder if, I don't know, yeah, there hasn't been any new lore dropped.
I know.
Homer and Hesiod, RIP, but like
Rip to some real ones.
3,000 years later, we're still like, but where's the next part?
Right. Yeah, I wonder too if it's because he's so diligent and I don't want to say paranoid because that's not it, but I wonder if it's because he's so diligent and making sure these things don't happen. Like I feel like he really is a god that sees everything and is very on top of. If someone were to overthrow him, probably took care of it already. Ate Matus. Like I feel like he's very much not like Kronos, I was gonna say Uranus, who ate the rock
Yeah.
and just like I mean, I don't get that either. Like, how did you pick that up and think that was a kid?
Yeah, like she swaddled it so well. He was like, "That's my kid."
Like I was thinking about that when I read them. Like, how did you not know? Like,
I thought like gods would have like a heightened sense of
no,
smell, and
100%.
he'd
Like,
be
what
like,
was going on here?
"This ain't baby."
Yeah, like, this rock.
But yeah, no, it's really interesting, especially when you kind of take it out of just Greek mythology and you look at like the larger world mythologies going on, and how there's always kind of like canonically like world-ending mythologies. For Norse mythology, it's Ragnarok. So it's really interesting that it kind of just ends with Zeus right now, and everything is fine. Of course, he has his trials and tribulations, as one does, but it's
Boy,
never
does he.
like somebody else, like Apollo is coming for his throne or his head or anything.
No, and maybe, and we've talked about this in the other Zeus Daddy or Zaddy episode, where it's like I think his kids are just satisfied with what they have to rule over and be in charge of because he really lets them do what they want. He's like, go forth and be great and be the greatest gods to ever live, and they are, right? The Olympians are some of the greatest gods to ever live to the point that we are still talking about them right now. You can't tell me that's
Hmm.
not power and moving their stories thousands of years later.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe they felt more like, oh, you know, they thought the humans were, I don't know, something new, something shiny because of how small our lifespans realistically are
That's
compared to
true.
others. Yeah, no, it's really interesting, but was it that's why I said earlier, like, was it based on this like human experience and like psychoanalysis? Freud would probably love this, of the son usurping their father, kind of how, we are the eldest daughters, in a sense of daughters, in a way, usurping their mothers. So is it more of a humanized aspect that was personified in a myth? I don't know. Like we could take this so many ways.
I mean, I'm sure. I think it's a good lesson of like your children can usurp you, like don't put it past them that they can't do those things, especially if you're doing things that are super unjust or I feel like you do usurp them at the end of the day where it's like the transition of power even in families, right? When your parents
Hmm.
become older and then, I come from a traditional Italian family, so when my parents get older, like sure, my parents will be the matriarch and the patriarch of the family still, but my brother and myself are going to be the ones driving the family and doing things, and they're just kind of
Hmm.
behind the scenes. So I feel like power does kind of shift
It does.
eventually,
A
you know?
100%. And it's so interesting just to see like how is power distributed, manifested, and all of that kind of stuff within families. But is it more so legacy instead of power? Of like you
Right.
want your legacy, like you want to have offspring, like that's the whole aspect, right? To continue your family line. But what if somebody F's up so bad that you can't talk about Grandpa Uranus anymore
We don't
because
talk about Bruno.
yeah, exactly, kind of stuff. Almost like the black sheep of the family of
Yeah.
like, well, if you do something bad, Dad, like I'll usurp you like your father did. So it's almost kind of like, how is your legacy going to continue on?
Yeah, it's really weird. And like I said, I feel like people with Zeus focus too much on the tryst and him cheating on Hera. And it's like, sure, we understand. We did a whole episode on that of is Zeus afraid of Hera? That was like one of the funniest episodes we did. And like,
Oh
sure,
yeah, is Zeus afraid of Nyx? Like,
is Zeus afraid of Hekate? No.
no.
We're gonna deep dive into that another time. But this man's not afraid of anybody. He literally went up to Kronos and said, I'm overthrowing you, and did. So like I think that's my point of this of like he is so powerful. That is just who he is. He's smart. He knows how to be a king, and I think he deserves to be appreciated in those aspects. And we can learn much from Zeus. I'm not saying that we're going to war and having to overthrow our own Kronos, or maybe we do. It's just like you can learn much from him, where it's like he's studying his opponent,
Hmm.
he's using his strength, he's going to save his siblings, he's making examples out of people,
Yeah,
right?
he's making examples out of like the bad, but he's also rewarding the good. Like, I don't want us to be like, no, he's a tyrant and he's a dictator. Like,
No, I don't. No,
no,
he's not a tyrant. I was actually going to say he's super fair and just. And
he is.
that's why
Like,
we're doing that justice aspect on Patreon because we just talked about Persephone and Aphrodite and who solved it? Zeus. Zeus came down and was like, all right, everyone sit down, tell me your grievances.
ugh, I'm
I'll
here
lay down the
again.
law. Right. The women are fighting.
And which could be scarier than going up against his own father. I don't know, TBD.
Yeah.
But it is interesting with, what he has to do because yeah, for all the bad and the eternal punishments that he does hand out, and there are some winners there. He also is rewarding those who stood beside him and in honoring. I think we forget that while Zeus is king of the gods, he also understands his position as an Olympian and he honors the Titans who came before him. He honors the primordials who came before him.
Mhm.
So it's also like legacy, this like curse or prophecy mixed with understanding and respect of elders as well. So it's like trying to find your place in society, and then once you get it, how do you maintain it?
He had a task to unite two generations, right?
Yeah.
Especially after war. And I don't think that's easy
No.
in the slightest, like dealing with primordial beings like Gaia and Nyx, like, of course, anyone would be scared of them. They're primordial, but I don't think it was fear. I think it's just he knows his place and he knows he's the youngest sibling, right? That means a lot. He's the
Yeah.
youngest god.
Yes.
Hades is older than him. Poseidon older than him. He's the youngest one out of his brothers. So like the fact that he overthrew Kronos and they respect him for that, right? Like
Hmm. Even
is a
the
lot.
even the Titans and Primordials who allied themselves or may not have been able to fight, but they gave their children to him.
Mhm.
Like everybody pitched in as much as possible. Like everything mattered at the end of the day. And it got to the point where he had to rally the troops and his grandparents and those who were imprisoned by his father and said, "Don't you want to take him down?" kind of deal. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, no, I think objectively, Zeus is personally one of my favorite gods because obviously I love his myths, but I think if you take away the adultery stuff, like there's so many amazing things that we learn about him and can learn about being a ruler or someone that's maintaining power. I feel like he teaches a lot through the myth of like, these are things you should do, these are things you shouldn't do, and this is how I maintain power in a sense as well. So mythology is meant to teach us something. It's sure, we love the story, it's funny,
Teehee.
it's crazy, it's whatever, but there's always like these underlying themes that were inspired by humanity,
Yep.
how we're seeing each other and how we see ourselves with the gods. So I don't know, I always really loved the myth of him overthrowing Kronos and saving his siblings and basically saving the other gods too. Because Kronos was crazy.
Kronos
He
was
was a
out of pocket.
tyrant.
Kronos was out of pocket.
He was out of pocket.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna say something controversial. Zeus and his affairs, we're over it. Like, I think that was a
I don't
way.
even think that's controversial.
I think it was a way for the men of pre-7th century BCE to explain why men of elite status were stepping out on their wives. As long as your wife, in name and like on paper, in a sense, was producing an heir, that was fine. It didn't matter what you were dilly-dallying on the side. So, uh, why not talk about this? Let's talk about how he maintained power. Let's talk about how his daughter, Athena, is probably the most powerful of his children, and he holds her in a higher regard than anybody else.
Yeah, no, Athena is also another goddess that I truly, truly, truly think is amazing, awesome, and respect to the most respect ever because she sits alongside of him. And that's king of the gods. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know why people are saying these crazy things. He's king of the gods. He's king of the gods. We cannot take that from him. That's his title, what he earned. And I feel like I see the craziest things about Zeus online. It's like he is very revered in our religion. He's revered in mythology. The gods revere him, and this is why. Like, it's just so much cooler. The ancient peoples revered him. This man
Yeah,
had temples. He was state sanctioned. Like, you can't tell me that the
this
ancient
man,
peoples were going, he stepped out on his wife, sorry. Like,
this
no.
man birthed his daughter. Like, we don't really see that a lot in
No.
the Greek mythology. If we see that in Norse mythology with Loki, but like, come on, like,
He's not afraid of anybody, sorry. Like that's where I've landed on this. Like he is walking up and going, he
I killed
he's
my
not
dad. I'll
afraid.
do worse to you.
He's not afraid. He's very good. And I feel like people are mistaking his kindness as weakness, but he's very good at being fair. And I think that's what you have to be when you're a king. You have to learn how to be fair. You can't always be battling with everybody just because you can strike them down with lightning and take everything from them because you're going to upset everybody else. You're upsetting the power. So I think people in modern day are like, oh, he's afraid of Hekate. He's afraid of Nyx. No, he knows how to be fair because he doesn't want to upset the masses, right? He has to
He
pick and choose his battles. He doesn't want to go to war again.
He also knows his place and his power.
100%.
Fear does not always have to be like I'm scared, so like I'm gonna retreat. It could be a tactical move and be like, you know what? I respect the power that these gal pals have. Have a nice day. I'll be over here if you need me. Like, just maybe tell your son to watch it. Like,
Yeah, right.
that's it.
100%. So I don't know. I always really admire Zeus, and I feel like I have to come out here and defend him all the time because it's like, what?
The Husa fudge. Husa fudge is out there.
He's honestly so cool, and the way the ancients viewed him and worshipped him is even cooler. And like his epithet for justice is awesome. You can go to him to get justice on people. Like,
Well, that's the craziest thing is I once again epithets. Like,
yeah,
there's
these
so
niche
many.
aspects. I said in one of the podcast episodes, there is an epithet for Apollo as Apollo the mouse catcher. I had a mouse inside of my house, and I petitioned Apollo the mouse catcher, and my cat the next day caught the mouse in my apartment that had been there for 2 weeks under the stove.
I mean, in
I'm just saying.
I'm blanking on the line within theogony, but I mean, Hekate is a nursemaid. Like I'm sure I don't have the specific epithet, but like, come on, like these people are so multifaceted, just like us today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we get hung up on the intricacies of these gods and what we want them to be, but understand that they served functions for the people that worship them. And
Mhm.
we should be talking about that because that's how we can worship them. That's how we can really. Me and Dr. K joked about the epithet for Apollo the mouse catcher. Did I ever think I would have to enact that in modern day? Like, did I ever think I would have to enact such things? Like,
But it, like
no.
stranger things have happened, like, and it really shows how trying to think of how to say this. It really shows how beloved and how multifaceted and how personal these gods were to the different peoples of wherever you were in the Mediterranean world. And, different localities had different, patrons with different epithets. There was a temple to Athena that was restored and was right next to Apollo's, which is great. But people are like, oh, well, not per, Athena and Poseidon hate each other, so why is there a harbor there? They don't. Like, we got to stop making up these newfound lore that is not coming from Hesiod or from Homer. Like, these are new additions.
No, I think what we've seen, people were very, very concerned in our Hekate Propolos episode where we had called Hekate a guide and a handmaiden to Persephone to the point where like they were attacking our reputation and our name. And I just have to, and that's not the point. The thing is, we don't make up these epithets and names. That's the thing. We are the ones just bringing light to these epithets and names because this is how the ancients were referring to them. Now, we know Hecate is very multifaceted, but she does have this epithet, Propolos, in which she is a guide and handmaiden to Persephone. That is her function in some cases. That's her function at the Eleusinian Mysteries.
That's the function in the hymn to Demeter. Her function in theogony is multifaceted as, Zeus respects her of three realms. Zeus, makes her the nursemaid of the gods. Very different than how we see her at Eleusis. But yeah, it's wild. Like, you think me and Chelsea 3,000 years ago we're like we looked this good for 3,000 years old, and we were just
Don't tell
back in
them
the
our
day like
secrets.
painting our pots, being like, oh, people in 2025 are gonna love this.
No, I think it's people not understanding that the gods are not just Hecate. It's not just Hades. It's not just Persephone. It's not just Athena. Like they have, like Dr. K just said, they serve purposes in different areas of the ancient world with different epithets based on what the people needed. So it's like, or how they're viewing them. So it's like, yeah, sometimes Apollo the mouse catcher, if you just say that to someone and they don't know, that can come off very disrespectful because you're like, what do you mean you're calling him Apollo the mouse catcher? How can you dilute him to such things? But it's like, no, he had a very, very, like, he was very revered in this one very, I can't remember the place, this one
It's in
very niche.
Turkey.
Oh, it was in Turkey. In Turkey, where people were venerating him under this epithet and name. Because why were they asking him for help with mice? Because mice carry diseases.
They're literally leaving votive mice. Like, granted, these people are not going to like the Oracle of Apollo
No.
at Delphi or Claros or even, elsewhere at Hierapolis, even with like they're going to stop at the sanctuary to the underworld god as well and just get a 2-for-1. But like, they're not going to go up to like the oracle at Delphi to the Pythia as she's like inhaling the fumes, being like, but Apollo the maps catcher.
Right.
Like, once again, know your audience, know like the interactions, know the intricacies, guys. Hekate Propolos, a quick little fact check. Fact check yourself before you at me next time.
100%. Yeah, it's like we don't make these up. We're just restoring the epithets and the names. So I think like if you don't understand epithets and names because it's confusing, Dr. K did an amazing blog that I talked about. We have free resources on our website where she did a whole paragraph on epithets in our Hekate Propolos blog to explain why we're calling her Hekate Propolos. And I think this applies for all the gods where it's like, I think we just have to open our minds a little bit and realize that they're multifaceted. But the problem is like, in modern day, people have put them into these boxes. So when we're teaching about things that they rule over that other people don't know, I think they are jarred or flabbergasted by it because they're like, well, that's super disrespectful to call Hecate a handmaiden. But we're like, that is what she's known for in ancient Greek religion. That is literally her role in the hymn to Demeter. We're not like taking something away from Hecate. We're restoring her historical
We're
roots
adding
that
it.
have been taken away. Like
Yeah.
with Zeus and being just like, oh, an adulterer. It's like he's the king of the gods and is so cool and has so many epithets and is amazing.
And
So,
holds such prominence. Yeah, it's a little crazy with it. It's we were talking about this earlier. It's giving ancient aliens. Like to say something if we were making it up, sure, call people out for making up historical inaccuracies, but to say, this god doesn't have this epithet because you don't know about it is spreading misinformation, which is a huge slippery slope down into the misinformation pipeline, which I battle within the realm of archaeology with the aliens built the pyramids. It's giving the same thing. Hecate's not a handmaiden because blah, blah, blah. No. Come with facts, come with sources, come with citations. Do not come with feelings, do not come with opinions.
yeah, I mean, and if you're just learning about epithets now, it's honestly an amazing way to know and understand the gods and like it's kind of like how I think of saints in Catholicism. Like we have saints that do so many different things and
Yeah.
functions and so many different names. It's like so we need to apply that same concept to the Greek gods and ancient Greek religion. So yeah, I know
Yeah.
we kind of went off on a tangent on epithets, but I think it's important when we're referencing them, you understand where we're coming from, where it's like we didn't just decide Hecate was a handmaiden, nor are we being disrespectful by saying that, or like Apollo the mouse catcher. Insert whatever god and whatever.
Sure. Like if people back in the day, we're in, 500 BCE, me and Chelsea, we're in Athens. And we go, I could use some help from Hermes. And you go to, temple and the priest and or priestess says, "Okay, what do you need? Do you have your epithet, ready?" And it's like, "For what? Oh, what do you need? Hermes. For what
Oh,
purpose?"
especially because he rules over so much.
And I think that's the whole thing, whether you rule over so much or you have associations to so many things, because there's a lot of crossover back in the day. Like you have to come prepared with like this god with this epithet at this time from here. This is what I know about it. And it really helps with specificity and all of that. Because just to say, like, oh, Zeus, please help. With what? What aspect? Because he's king?
Right.
I don't think a king is going to really give two rusty nickels. Are you going for like Zeus fertile god, fertile myrtle? Are you going to go for Zeus justice, Zeus, heaven,
Insert whatever.
insert heavenly aspect, insert chthonic aspect, like who, what, where, when, why, and how. And it's you have to know all of that kind of stuff because you're not, and it's not for evoking the gods. That's also a little sliver of a misinformation pie, but it's to really denote of like to so and so, here's what I need help with. Please help, and here's what I'll do for you in return if you could afford it back in the day. But it's not just to evoke the great fertile Zeus god. No, it's just, hey, I need help, Zeus, insert epithet with my crops.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of respect. It's like walking up to a professor. You're not just going to go, hey, 10. You're going to go, hey, Dr. K, right? Like, it's just, or if I see 10 outside of, I'm her friend, I'm calling her 10 and not Dr. K. It's like knowing your audience and your names.
Yeah.
It's like a formality almost, in my opinion, of like, this is the direct line I'm going to Zeus, where I hope he answers this petition in this
Yeah.
aspect because I need justice to be served. And yeah, it's definitely like very helpful to know. So,
Helpful to know. And I get it can feel weird. It can feel weird. When somebody first said Dr. K, I said, I was looking around, who are you talking to? I'm looking for the adultier adult. It's me. It can feel weird, but know that verbs, verbiage, names, titularies, titles. I'm seeing if Chelsea's laughing.
Yep.
These all matter, right? They matter back in the ancient day. They matter today, right? Words matter. Words carry meaning.
They do. Yeah, I think it was important to talk about the epithet aspect because I think the gods get categorized into so many crazy boxes, and it's like, sure, they might in that one aspect be that thing, but they are also associated with 50 million other things.
100%. And even in the portions of theogony that we, covered with this, you could probably skim and on the sides in the margins, probably denote which epithet is being used. Maybe do that to like help you take notes or quiz yourself of like, okay, well, Zeus, he went and he talked to, the other Titans and he said, if you fight alongside me, I'm not going to take away your offices. I'm not going to take away your jobs. In fact, you'll keep it and then you'll take from the pot of who else lost their jobs, who fought against me if we win, if and when we win. And for that, you could be like, okay, well, Zeus is being really cunning. He's being a leader. He's being this. He's being a strategist. And look up what those epithets would have been and put them on the side. Well, this is, Zeus this. This is Hades that. This is Earthshaker this. This is Earthshaker
Yeah,
that.
Earthshaker's one for Poseidon, so there you go. Like that's one of his names. It's one
Yeah.
of my favorites. I love it. I love when they reference him as Earthshaker because I'm like, oh, I know that. It's Poseidon.
Yeah.
Tag me in. But I think modern New Age spaces have really taken the gods and made them into something that they're not. So now you have two professionals coming in telling you the history and fact, and people are like losing their minds over the fact that we called Hecate a handmaiden. And I'm like, I was confused by this.
I'm
I was
sorry.
like,
I don't
what
mean
is
to
she?
laugh.
It's just an epithet of Hecate. It's not disrespecting her, disrespecting her. Um,
Did
so
y'all
yeah,
miss?
I think it's like the new age movements have just made these gods very flat, like we have been saying over the past several podcasts, but like this is it happening in real life where it's like, I don't care, you know what I mean? I'm just using this as an example, like,
You gotta, somebody's got to be an example, much like Zeus.
I'm using this as an example of like if you would have just actually Googled that, you would have seen that Propolos does mean handmaiden and guide, you know?
I
Like
mean, the chortle, when High Priestess Chelsea told me, was biblical. And we were giggling to each other, like, did everybody miss the Persephone painter crater where she's coming in Propolis style with her torch just with Persephone?
yeah, I mean, like she's literally guides her back and forth. Like I don't. She also guides the restless dead. You know what I'm saying? Like there's,
Did we
she's
miss the hymn to Demeter?
yeah, like the only place we've talked about where we really see Hecate mentioned for more than one sentence in Greek mythology. Like that's just the facts. You know what I'm saying? So like it is interesting because I think epithets are very uncomfortable for people that don't study ancient Greek religion or don't know because they're like, why would you call Apollo a mouse catcher? That's crazy. No, it's not
Yeah,
actually to the people of Turkey. They were doing it.
he's out there catching mice.
And he helped me the other day, so thank you. Left an offering, said thank you very much. You're not going to
Yeah,
tell me I petitioned Apollo the mouse catcher, and next day my cat caught the mouse. It's been in my house for 2 weeks.
I was there. He blacked who to win.
That's what I'm saying. So epithets, let me tell you, they could be very helpful. So use them, and also if you don't use them, like just the knowledge of epithets. And I always find it very interesting when I'm studying a god and their epithets. I'm like, I didn't know they did that. I didn't know people were calling them this. Hermes is very interesting, with everything he rules over.
100% because while, gods, I'll use Zeus for example, or even Athena, while they're so heavily state sanctioned, not everybody, we have to remind ourselves, just because we have a lot of evidence coming from Athens, doesn't mean everybody lived in Athens. Doesn't mean everybody lived in the suburbs of Athens. They were in their own city states, hence why we see different epithets for, Aphrodite the warlike appearing in, areas of Cyprus and in Sparta. You know why we don't see her in Athens? Because they didn't need her.
And Athena,
Yeah.
shout
And
out.
Athena. Shout out. Yeah, maybe we'll do another Hecate. What part are we up to? Like 90 million?
Oh God, we really were like, this is our last episode. We're gonna do one again.
We're back again.
Let's scare people with epithets.
Melting.
No, we should do a podcast on Apollo the mouse catcher because I'm curious to see what happens. Like people are gonna be so mad at us for saying that, but it's like I didn't make this up. It's literally part of history. I didn't make this up.
Yo, imagine being mad at history. But what I was going to say for Hecate part 8 million, we could look at the few sentences that she does have in theogony and like what would we categorize it as?
Okay, yeah, down. I mean, maybe we'll do that in the fall or something. I don't know. You guys let
Yeah,
us know.
we need a break.
Are you guys sick of the Hekate content?
They must be because torches are being burned.
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. Epithets are really awesome, amazing. And that's why on our Patreon, we'll be deep diving into some of them for the gods. Like I said, Zeus is going to be this month and the specific epithet for justice because he will hear your case out. And remember, though, I will give you this tidbit. For any divine being you are petitioning for justice, you got to make sure your backyard is clean because they're going to look at the things fairly and they're going to go, okay, but what did you do in this situation?
Yeah, they're gonna really call you out like Judge Judy. So,
He's Judge Judy out there. He is Judge Judy.
name of the friend. You want to go home?
I was just thinking of
Name
that.
and number of the friend.
It's Zeus is our Judge Judy, so it's like we can go to him and say, "Hey, like, help."
Yeah, you know what? Sorry, the icon that Judge Judy is, that's Zeus.
Sometimes it's scary going to him for this justice because you're like petitioning the king of the gods. Like, don't think I wasn't shaking in my boots, being like, "Oh, please listen."
Shivers were timbered.
Yeah, like I'm just a mere mortal, and I'm asking the king of the gods to hear me out in my case. I plead my case. Anyway, but yeah, the epithets are really cool. I highly suggest you look them up, study them. It'll give you more context about the gods and how the people are viewing them.
Yeah, there's place epithets, there's aspect epithets, many epithets.
Too many. I don't know them all. Don't ask
There's
me.
there's many interesting things about them.
Yeah, for real.
Like that soundbite, he loves classical music. There's
Yes.
many interesting things about him.
Is that the one where it's like he's also gay?
Yeah, that's the soundbite of Zeus too.
That's
He's
Zeus.
gay. He listens
Likes
to classical
classical
music.
music.
Very many interesting things about him.
No, our gods are literally so cool. Greek mythology is so cool. Like they're so LGBTQA plus friendly. Like they are like the cool. They don't care. They just do what they want. They're gods. They don't assign these things to them. And
They're
so
just like, you're beautiful. I love you. Let's go.
we're assigning things to them. So it's like get out of the Hecate is the queen of witches. We need this is a chokehold on the universe. We're here to get out of it, okay? We're ready to tussle.
We're
They're
ready
so
to
much
tussle.
cooler than that.
We understand that you guys like that. Y'all might like getting choked as well, but like we gotta let it go.
Yeah, like Zeus isn't just an adulterer. Okay, this is a chokehold. Maybe we do a chokehold episode where I just go like this the whole time. We're like, what has people in a chokehold this week? What is it?
Sticks and bones chokehold
Hades
up
is
there.
misunderstood. No, he is not. He was just described in theogony as a pitiful. What did it say? I'm gonna go back to
Pitiless.
pitiless hearted God. Right here in the private source. Don't say I made it up because I didn't. I am not Hesiod. I wish I was.
That we were not dropping this burning lore back in the day.
This is heat. Like this is fire.
Honestly, yeah, what were the crowds doing? Like, were people lining up? Like, remember back in the day growing up? I know like
Yes.
the new generations don't do this anymore, but like, remember when like the new books would get released and people would go and wait late at night or a new game would drop and you would wait and camp out outside? Were people doing that for like Hesiod and Homer?
I don't know, but apparently we were there, so I remember doing that.
We were painting our vases and going, tee, won't this be funny? When we make a podcast and we look this good at 3,000 years old.
Maybe you are Homer. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like we are Homer. Yeah, it's really funny. Like that's why I don't get mad when we get pushback because it's usually like people are mad at us for talking about it, but
Made up Delulu.
it's really just so wild. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what goes on. Like I said, I think it's just the chokehold of like new age spirituality of people not understanding what the gods actually do or their functions. And it's like they do so many of things, like we keep saying. So Zeus, awesome. Six and Bones approved.
Stop running from comprehension. Yeah, we got to get like a stamp. Sticks and bones approved.
Yeah, like I like the Jeffree Star when he does his makeup reviews, the Jeffree Star approval comes up in the corner.
Oh.
We need to do
Didn't
that for six.
Oprah have one for like her book club or
I
something?
think a lot of people have. I know, like, when people buy artwork from our temple store, we do have the Six of Months logo. That's the seal in the corner.
Oh, I bust my bottom dollar trying to punch those puppies on in for you all. I hope you enjoy.
Right. Chokehold. We got to get out of the chokehold, everybody. Snap. We got to wake up. Wake up.
Wake up. I know y'all like being choked, but come on.
To what point? To what extent?
Where's the safe word?
Where was the citation on that one?
Nowhere to be found.
No. So, yeah, we're just here to provide the history and these fun little niche epithets. I thought they were fun. Apparently, some people did not find them fun. If that's okay.
Oh, yeah, wild, wild times at Sticks and Bones High.
It is. But anything else you want to add to our Zeus episode, the King of the Gods? We hope that we've restored his good name. Oh, one thing I want to ask you before we go, kind of going back to the original.
Plot of the movie.
Do you think the gods are like chains to prophecy?
Chains to prophecy. What do you mean?
Like they get the gods get this good prophecy and they're like, no, I got to take care of this now.
Like they're bad, like they have it and they're like they have to like abide by it.
Not that they have to abide by it, but do you think that they place a huge importance on it?
I think so. I think weirdly, this is an Achilles heel
Hmm. That we
because
know.
that we know of that they're giving us.
That we know of the gods and their Achilles heel is this prophecy.
Like I think that with it because this is so hard. What a great question.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's a double-edged sword because I think with prophecy, it is an Achilles heel because is somebody going to know about the prophecy and then enact it? But then by enacting it, are you already fulfilling the prophecy? So it's almost kind of like chicken and an egg kind of thing of like, well, if I don't do the prophecy, is it still going to happen, or is not doing it also kickstarting it? So it's kind of like every action, including inactions, is an active choice. So can you get out of it? I don't know. Because was it already planted in stone? Were you always going to do blah, blah, blah? Like, I don't, it's such an interesting question. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that they do react to prophecy, right? Like we see that a lot, and especially with like the usurping of son and father. But I also find it fascinating that the gods are not immune to prophecy. I find it fascinating that there are these all-powerful gods. Like we just sat here and gave you a whole spiel on why Zeus is all-powerful, but he's still not immune to prophecy.
Still has an Achilles heel.
They still have these Achilles heel. And like we're going to be talking about over the summer, we're going to be doing these big topic discussions of like who are the fates in ancient Greek religion? Do the gods have fate? Like what did the ancient peoples view fate as? How is fate viewed in this religion? Like how are we viewing it? Right? Because these gods, and it's interesting because I feel like a lot of religion has prophecy in it. And it's like for some reason, divine beings are not immune from prophecy and like what is fate and like what can they control and what can't they?
Yeah, I think it really shows the the larger aspect of fate itself, whether it's the beings who represent fate as goddesses, in whichever mythology and pantheon you want to talk about, and how at the end of the day, like you could be all powerful, immortal, all of this kind of stuff, and still be flawed. You still can get taken down. So I think it's really, really interesting that they're, in a sense, kind of humanized in that kind of
So
sense.
much humanized.
You
Yeah.
can be big, you can be the big bad wolf, and you can be, protected and have all this power and this and that and all the riches and blah, 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 and all the time. And at the end of the day, aren't you still bound to prophecy or fate like humans are?
Yeah. It's a very interesting discussion. I remember when I was first getting into ancient Greek religion and mythology, like I think it was one of the most fascinating things of like the gods cannot control fate and prophecy sometimes. I mean, look at Kronos. I mean, it's just like they can't stop things sometimes. There's like insert whatever Greek myth of love, like we just talked about the Adonia festival on Patreon and how like it was the morning of Adonis and Aphrodite could not stop Adonis from dying.
Yeah.
It's like they receive prophecy and you think that they're like these all-knowing beings, but they have like this very flawed quality about them, each and every single one of them that makes them human.
100%. It makes them relatable, even with like Orpheus and Eurydice. Was it always fate that Orpheus was going to come down for his wife? Was it always fate that Hades was going to enter into the wager? Or, did he have to barter? And, how much can the fates be persuaded? And, what is finality at the end of the day? Like, can that still be bartered?
And how like interwoven are fate and prophecy? Can you change prophecy? Can you change fate? Like,
Well, that and then
it's so
adding
crazy.
adding in the variables of life, death, and rebirth. There's so many like, do you escape fate if you die and are reborn and like come back to life?
I don't know. These are like very, very like
These are the
crazy.
hard-hitting questions.
It is, but like it does enter into ancient Greek religion and Greek mythology. These are things that are part of it, right? Prophecies everywhere. The fates especially have a very specific and important role, but like the gods can't control a lot of these things.
Correct. And it's kind of on par with, how was the Pythia and her prophecies, how were they taken and understood? Because I mean, she read for anybody. So
Right, and what you just said, how were they understood, right? You can receive a prophecy, but it's like it doesn't mean the way you're understanding it is the right way to understand it.
again, how vague and how words are, listed and lined, it could change the entire meaning based on one translation, based on how I understand the word power versus how Chelsea understands the word
Mhm.
power. And we could have two separate reactions to that. Both could be true, but we don't know what the correct prophecy would be.
I know. It's kind of like so prophecy is like a really crazy thing to talk about because it's like yes, I totally believe in it, but there's like some major pitfalls with prophecy because it's like you could have been interpreting that the wrong way if you're unbiased about it. So here's Six of Moans. We teach to be unbiased. We're looking at everything through an unbiased lens. Put everything at the front door, okay? We know Apollo is much more than a mouse catcher, but
Hmm.
we cannot deny the historical roots that are going on here and how people were viewing him in this one area.
Oh, 100%. And you brought up a great point this morning of like, it's even like archaeology or even in, with you as a professional medium, you can't come in with biases. You can't, I can't dig with the Iliad in one hand and a pickaxe in the other. And, mediumship, you can't come in with all of this extra information to
No.
try and make the puzzle fit.
No, I know I like a lot of this. We get a lot of messages from people that are like deconstructing from like the new age propaganda that's not correct about the gods and sometimes it's shocking for people or maybe you didn't know these things. But yeah, I think when you come to listen to an episode here, like just be open-minded because this is the history and I think with history especially we have to be open-minded, not quick to judge. They were doing things differently than we were. So yeah, I think to look at these things you have to have an unbiased opinion. You can't ta attach too much emotion to it.
No, because then you're missing out on so much.
Epithets. Asking
Propolos.
Hekate help for guidance. Propolos.
Propolos.
I thought that one was cool, but the girls did not.
Y'all missed the mark.
My God. But yeah, I think we're going to continue to have these very interesting philosophical discussions as well, combining it with Greek mythology and the history and the religion. And this is what it's all about, is this is how we think about things, right? We're humans. We need to question and think and why. And sure, Zeus is an adulterer, but like, let's look at him usurp his father in this crazy story. So,
Yeah, his father was also insane and a tyrant, but his father also castrated his father and made Aphrodite. So like there everything, every choice has I forget who the person was, who every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I'm not a
yes.
science girly. I never took physics, but with that, it's kind of the same thing. So like each thing had to happen in order for Zeus to become king.
It's true, as the prophecy had written.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I want, you know what? Maybe for one of these extra Patreon months, we should get the OG prophecy and actually deep dive and be like, did Zeus actually end it by Metis?
Or we can do the one from the last prophecy from the Pythia.
Oh, there's so much with that one.
I know that's a hot button topic
Oh
with the
God.
Oracle of Delphi. Yeah, that's been coming back a lot lately of like the Pythia was wrong. Was she? Let's talk
And then
about it.
was she and like adding in the historicity of the source material that's coming from.
Yeah, maybe we do that
Anything
one.
else you want to add?
No, I think we have like a very exciting lineup and schedule coming up. I can't wait, like between Patreon and what we're talking about over the summer. So stay tuned. Sticks and Bones is just gonna keep talking about the apparently crazy cool things and discussing things. And we want to know, what do you think about Zeus and overthrowing Kronos? What's your favorite part? What do you think of epithets?
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite epithet?
What's your favorite epithet? I don't even think I have a favorite epithet. You know what? I'm gonna pick I have to find my favorite epithet.
Maybe at the end of the year episode, we'll name our favorite epithets. I don't
Yeah,
know. I gotta figure it out.
some of them are
All
crazy.
right. Alrighty, but from us to you, we will see you guys next week. Sticks and Bones is, heading for summer vacation, but you guys will have us next time. And yeah, for more Sticks and Bones content, you can join us over on the Mystery Cult for extra members content, whether it is on Patreon or YouTube, whatever is accessible and easy for you all to get a hold of. Don't forget, domestic shrines and witchcraft altars are up on Patreon. We are doing an ancient Greek religion book review, and we are diving into the epithet of justice for Zeus. If you would like more from High Priestess Chelsea, don't forget to check out her YouTube channel and podcast and services if you want your own prophecy, perhaps. And if you want to come see the ancient world with me, I already know I have some sticks and boners coming to Turkey with me, so come see Turkey with me. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.